In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a topic that has been really interesting over the entire course of the 2021 season, and that's the NBA refs. The refs have pretty much had their worst season that we've ever seen from a group of officials, and they've got a lot of criticism from fans, coaches, and players around the NBA this entire season, and it's pretty well deserved. They haven't been good at all this season. There's been a lot of flaws with the referees this year. So I'm going to be analyzing some of these today and going through what the NBA as a league needs to do and what the officials need to do to get this situation right. And I'm going to be going through 5 different things that the referees have not done well this season, and also that the league needs to jump in and help in some of these situations to really get things right. So before we get started, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos. I post tons of NBA content, and I'm working on getting the channel to 1,000 subscribers. So if you're new, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos. And with that being said, let's get started with the video. The first thing I'm going to be talking about that the refs need to stop doing is actually rewarding flopping and complaining. A lot of fans have not only complained about the refs, but also complained about how the players are constantly complaining to the refs and also constantly flopping. But I've come to the realization that it's actually not even the players' fault for complaining and flopping, because the refs are actually rewarding this in a way. So I'll give you some examples to back up what I'm trying to say here. Let's look at Zion Williamson, one of the best players in the league who is on a bad team and is 2 games out of the 10 seed right now. Currently, Zion is sitting out with a finger injury that most likely happened because all the times that he goes into the paint, he gets hacked, and there's oftentimes not calls when he goes into the paint and creates contact. And I also remember 2 specific moments at the end of Pelicans games where calls have really gone against Zion. I look at one game where they faced the Wizards a few weeks ago. It was a tie game at the 4th quarter. Russell Westbrook goes up for a mid-range shot. Zion barely skims his finger, and it's called a foul, which cost them the game. And that game against the Denver Nuggets where he goes up for the layup at the end of the game, gets hacked on the arm by Nikola Jokic, and there's no call. So basically 2 crucial calls that have cost the Pelicans games and actually is holding them out of the 10 seed right now, and also multiple times throughout the season where Zion has gone into the paint and get fouled many times and there's absolutely no calls. And basically this is costing the Pelicans a chance to be in the play-in tournament. And something worth noting is that Zion has never gotten a technical foul in his career, rarely ever complains to the refs, and has never flopped once in his career. And that's not even an exaggeration. If you watch Zion play, you realize that he never flops. And all of this, and he's not getting favored by the refs. And I look at a player like LeBron James, who is one of my favorite players of all time, if not my very favorite player of all time, but we can all agree that LeBron flops all the time, complains to the refs all the time, and I think because of this, he's actually getting reputation calls. We can all agree LeBron is getting reputation calls, and if you think it's because he's good, that might play a part into it, but then why doesn't Zion get reputation calls? Zion is a future MVP of the league, the most unstoppable player at the rim in the league, and he can't get any calls around the rim. The league has implemented this play-in tournament so that the Pelicans can get into the play-in tournament, but because Zion doesn't flop and complain for calls, he actually doesn't get those calls. And it's worth noting that both of those times where he got fouled by Jokic and apparently fouled Westbrook even though he just skimmed his finger, he didn't say one word to the ref, even though it's costing them crucial games down the stretch of the season. So Zion doesn't flop, he doesn't complain, and he's getting punished because of this. And I use the example of LeBron James as a player that gets calls because of his complaining and flopping. You can look at a player like Joel Embiid as a guy like that who flops all the time and gets calls because of it, and even guys like Draymond Green and Marcus Smart, who are very good, scrappy, and valuable defenders and overall players, but they're not superstars that should be getting reputation calls. But I see these guys get more calls than other players because they are floppers and complainers as well. And there's also not a few other examples other than Zion, because pretty much everyone in the NBA complains and flops at some point. But I also look at a guy like Donovan Mitchell, who recently had an interview where he spoke out about how he feels his team is not getting any calls this season because of how they're not complaining and flopping, and I completely agree with him as well. Players like Donovan Mitchell, the overall Jazz team, and also Zion don't get calls because they're not flopping and complaining. So the next time you see a player flop and complain, don't blame them for doing that. Blame the refs for rewarding it. This is one of the big problems with the refs that it needs to become a thing that we're all aware of, is how they're rewarding flopping, and this needs to stop if they want to get any respect or credibility. So that one right there about the refs rewarding, complaining, and flopping is really my main point of the video. But there's also a lot of things that the refs and the league need to do better. And my second point here is cleaning up things like the lean-in foul calls and making sure that's actually not called as a foul. One of the big topics this season has been how guys like Trae Young, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, and other guards around the league, when they're in the pick and roll, especially a guy like Trae Young who kind of originated this move, if the defender is on their back, they'll lean into that defender and create their own contact, and because of that it'll be called a foul. And I partly blame the refs for actually calling this, and really as a team and as a unit, as refs, they need to get together as a group and stop calling this as a foul, because really it shouldn't be a foul. The defender is in a position where they can't do anything to avoid getting contact, even though they're not even creating the contact. Guys like Trae Young lean into them to create that. If anything, it should be an offensive foul. But I also blame the league for actually having this kind of as in their rule book as a foul, because when you look at the refs, I guess you can't really blame them that much, because technically it is a foul and they're just calling what is or isn't a foul by the rule book. So I blame the league for having this as an actual foul, which really it shouldn't be, because the defender's in a completely defenseless position, and guys like Trae Young pad their stats because they get easy free throws off of calls like this where they're literally creating the contact on their own and leaning into the defender. And I don't blame Trae Young for doing this. If it's working for him and he's getting points because of it, of course he's going to keep using that move to get buckets, but he shouldn't be able to do that. The league needs to make sure that this isn't called a foul, and the refs need to get together as a group and make sure that they stop calling this, because it's completely unfair and it doesn't make any sense. The third thing that the refs are doing horribly this season is being way too soft and giving technical fouls way too easily. And I'm going to be short on this one, because we all know that this is the main, or one of the main problems with the refs this season, is how they're just so soft and easily give technical fouls whenever a player even argues or slams the ball or even looks at them. Like, look at Luka Doncic getting ejected the other day for a second technical foul when he literally just looked at the ref. It's getting ridiculous what the refs are doing to give technical fouls right now, and it's one of the things that's just straight up ruining the NBA right now. I mean, the refs need to realize that the fans are there to watch the players, not to watch the players get kicked out for slamming a basketball. It's getting ridiculous, and they need to stop being so soft. The fourth thing I'm going to be discussing that needs to change here is actually something that the league needs to take action on, and not the refs. This really doesn't have anything to do with the refs actually, so I guess they can get a break from getting slandered. The change that needs to happen here is something with the coaches challenge. I was excited when the NBA put in the coaches challenge, because I thought it would finally hold refs accountable for some of their bad decisions, but it's really not, because coaches only get one challenge throughout the game, and they lose the challenge even if they win the challenge, if that makes sense. So if they win the challenge and the call is overturned and they were right, they should be able to keep their challenge. Why should they lose it just because the refs made a bad call? There's so many times throughout games where, for example, it'll be in the second quarter and there's a call that the refs missed, and the coach will be on the sideline arguing with the ref. And it comes into my mind, if you're arguing with the ref and you think they're wrong, then why don't you just use your coach's challenge? But they don't want to, and they're so hesitant to, because they want to use it for a bigger situation, because even if they win that challenge and are correct, they're still going to lose their challenge and won't have it for maybe a bigger moment down the stretch in games. And because of this, most of the challenges aren't even used in games because coaches are too afraid to use them and they save them too much. I look at baseball, for example, and in baseball you have a coach's challenge every single game, and if you win that challenge you get it back. And even though baseball is a slow moving game, it really holds the umpires accountable for the calls that they make, because managers in baseball aren't afraid at all to use their challenge even in the first or second inning if they're confident that they're going to win it, because they're going to get that challenge back if they win it. The NBA has to do this too. They should be able to challenge and get their challenge back if they're right. There's absolutely no reason why you should lose a challenge just because the refs missed a call. And they can still be strategic with using that challenge and when they want to use it, and only use it if they know that they're right. But this way, there will actually be more calls that don't get missed, because the coaches can actually be right and use multiple challenges if they're right. And it's going to hold the refs accountable, and it's going to overall just improve the quality of the calls and just make sure that you get more calls right, and be able to have the coaches control more of the game and the calls that they think that the refs have missed, so they can see if they're right or wrong. Right now, since there's only one challenge and you lose that challenge, even if you're right, the challenge is pretty much doing nothing. So the NBA needs to implement it so that if you win that challenge, you should be able to keep it and use it multiple times throughout the game if you continue to be right. Now, something you might be thinking about this is it's going to slow down the game a little bit. And basketball is already a pretty fast game, so I don't think that's a big problem. But another way that they could speed up the game leads me into my fifth point about the refs. And yeah, I'm back to the refs and slandering them again. And the last point I'm going to be discussing here is how late in games when they're doing reviews, they take so long to get the calls right. I mean, there's like out of bounds plays in the last minute of games that are so clear, and I can watch it after one time, 15 seconds of watching footage, and realize who the ball is off of, and these refs will literally take like 3 to 5 minutes to determine what the call is, even if it's just like an out of bounds play. And they just need to speed up on these calls. Like, some of them are so easy, and if you want to speed up the game and just give the coaches one challenge, you're focusing on the wrong priority. They should be able to use their challenge again if they win it, and just make these reviews less long. They don't need to be this long to get the right call. So they really just need to speed these up if you want to speed up the game in general. So there you have it. That is my rant about the NBA refs today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below your thoughts on the refs and what they need to do for better success for the league in general. Obviously, the main 2 points I made here were especially about how the refs are rewarding flopping, which I really think we all need to become aware of, and that it really needs to stop because it's something that is getting ridiculous right now in the NBA, and also the lean-in fouls and how they shouldn't be called as a foul. And overall, I made my 5 points today, so comment down below anything that you agreed with or that you disagree with, or any other things that you think the refs need to be held accountable for. Thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you all next video.